It's FYF Sports, man. It's Lamont, man. We back with another podcast video, man. Today we got a special episode for you guys, man. I cannot wait to dive right into this topic and to speak with our special guest for today. Before we get started, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to the video if you have not done so already. Again, hitting that notification bell is going to help you stay engaged with the channel. You'll see when our videos drop. You'll see when we go live. And again, we're going into a new phase of our channel where we're going to start doing our live debates, where we're going to start expanding our platform. So the only way you can be a part of that is if you hit that notification bell, stay subscribed to our channel, and watch for everything that we have to come. But today, again, as I said, the guest that we're bringing on today, the primary reason that we're bringing this guy on is because within the game of basketball, there's a grind to it. It's not just about talent. It's about your intestinal fortitude and dealing with certain things off the court, dealing with certain coaches, dealing with the politics behind each school that you're going to. And I think, with a lot of the stuff that I've been seeing on YouTube and just, in the basketball community, there's a lot of people out there that just don't respect the grind. They don't respect how hard it is to get to the JUCO level and then be great. They don't respect how hard it is to get to the D1 level and not just get to the D1 level, but grind and be great. And then, for the lucky few that can go past the D1 or college level and go into the pros, whether it's overseas, whether it's the G League, whether it's the NBA, there's so much disrespect towards just the grind to get to any of those levels. And I just, I've seen so many basketball players, I've seen so many elite level basketball players have the talent, but not have the mental acuity and the intestinal fortitude to get to those levels right here. So we're bringing in a guest today, man. This is one of my homies. I've hooped with him, I've talked with him a lot, off the court. And I think he'd be the perfect person to help just kind of break down just a lot of the politics, a lot of the things that go on behind the scenes as a basketball player developing on all of these stages and all of these levels of play. So, with no further ado, let's get to the guest. All right, and today we got a special guest with us, man. This is one of my homies, man. This guy's been all over the country hooping, man. He's really the definition of just how to grind as a hooper. Coming out of Harlem, New York, went from playing JUCO ball to playing D1 ball, out overseas in the UK. Now he's back in the US, looking to continue his professional career. We're going to chop it up with him today. Again, we just going to talk about, the main thing is there's a lot of politics that go on in the college grind when you coming up as a college hooper. It's more than just skill. It's a lot of politics that you got to deal with, and this guy dealt with a lot of it his entire career. We're going to touch on all those topics today. But, without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and bring him into the show. My homie, his name is Cheick Savane. This guy played at Sullivan College. He played at Suffolk College. He played at Grand Canyon University, man, and man put up numbers everywhere he went, man. Cheick, how you doing today?
What's good? I'm doing all right, man. Glad to be here.
That's what's up, man. Hey, so the main reason we just brought you onto the show, man. One of the main topic that I wanted to touch on, because I talk to a lot of young kids, and they're always asking, how do I get D1? How do I get D1? Like, what do I got to do to get on a college roster? What do coaches want to see? And like, it's so hard to really explain that, because when I look at like a guy like you who could easily have played at any mid-major and been on the rotation for any high major, and a plan in the rotation, but the politics of the game kind of thwarted your D1 career. Like how would you explain that to a youngster or a college guy? Like, what would you explain to them? What would you say they need to do? What's the number one thing you need to focus on aside from making your game better? What should they focus on if they want to get to a D1 university?
Man, that is the $1 million question, ain't it? Man, I would say, when politics get involved, I think you need to understand who your coaching staff is, and who the people that you see in the lab every day that you're talking to, the trainers, the staff, the people behind them, what their agendas are, who they truly want in a rotation to represent the university. Obviously, you got to go like your game needs to be obviously like on point, because like when it comes to that situation, or when you get that opportunity to finally be in a position where you can, be in a rotation, there can be no mistake. You got to perform. But I think getting a better idea of your coaching staff and the people supporting the university would help a lot.
Yeah, and again, it's like for the people that, like, what I'm going to break down is, Cheick was a guard who came out of Harlem, New York. So we already know that guards out of Harlem are hard-nosed guards. They can play. But this man coming out of JUCO, I'm going to break down some of his numbers for you guys, man. The man averaged 27 points a game, 27 and a half points a game, led the country in scoring on 45% field goal percent shooting, 40% from the three-point line, 80% from the free throw line. This man did it all for his school. He could have played anywhere. And again, coming out of JUCO is one of the hardest things. It's not as easy as just putting up numbers. I feel like that's where the politics kicked in, and when he transferred into Grand Canyon University as a walk-on, I think one of the main things that a lot of people don't understand is, and you know this, and you can touch on this a little bit yourself. As a walk-on, your role is completely different, because you don't have that scholarship label. Yep. That scholarship label is real big, and it's about boosters pay for scholarships. Boosters want to see scholarship players play. So regardless of how good you are as a player, you're not going to touch that court until you get that scholarship tag. And I kind of want you to touch on, again, that aspect of it. And again, why it's so important for college, high schoolers going into college to understand, like, you need to know what you want to do. Are you just trying to get onto the roster as a walk-on? Because it's a completely different role being a walk-on. Are you trying to get on somewhere as a scholarship player? Like, break that stuff down, because again, that's some of the more finer parts of the politics with regards to NCAA that a lot of people don't know about.
Right, man. That's a really good point. Coming into Grand Canyon University, with the numbers that I put up, I already knew that I was already at like a slight disadvantage, being that I am coming in as a non-scholarship player. For people that are trying to go into universities and Division I, Division II, if you're trying to be a scholarship player, you need to understand each scholarship for each player is worth tens of thousands of dollars, right? The university is investing perhaps maybe $60,000 a year per scholarship player. So when a player who comes in, putting up the numbers that I did, even getting my jersey in the rafters at Suffolk Community College, it can make the what do you call it, the recruiters not look good in the best light. So what they try to do is and understand that I have no animosity, no negative feelings, towards GCU at this point in time. But understand that they want to, put you in a position where your performance is not to be, I guess, warranted, in a sense. When you're talking to college kids and they're like, hey, Cheick, like, I admire the fact that, you're on a Division I basketball team, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the guys that want to just join the basketball team and just wear a jersey and say, hey, mom, look, I made it. I played Division I basketball. That was never my intention. That was never, ever my goal. Gaining offers and interest from places like Cal, Berkeley, Washington State, like, Pac-12 schools. I'm coming into GCU to come in and bring, my basketball, my New York culture, to amazing university. So understand, knowing your personnel is a big deal, man. Knowing who you're going to play for is a big deal, because Dan Marley, love him as a person, maybe not so much as a coach, but he wouldn't play, most of the walk-ons. But then you got a coach at Wisconsin, which is obviously a much bigger program than GCU, that would play, their walk-on. So it's really picking and choosing, where you go, and carefully like understanding the culture and getting as much information as you can from these people.
Yeah, and what you said right there was big. It's about understanding the coach that you're about to go play for. And I feel like a lot of kids, especially even if they're talented, I think they're so desperate to get on a D1 roster, they'll make the mistake of joining the wrong team and find themselves in a tough situation with wasted years of eligibility. And just like you said,
right,
there's some coaches that will play walk-ons. But there are other coaches
right,
that 100% will not play a walk-on regardless of how talented you are, because of the politics. So it's about really understanding the school. You got to do your homework, especially on coaching staffs. And again, a lot of people don't know that Dan Marley coached at Grand Canyon University, because I talked to a lot of other guys on different podcasts, and we're talking about 90s players and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, man, Dan Marley coaches here. Like, I can literally ask him these questions, if we want. But a lot of people don't know that. And Dan Marley's I can probably say this, I almost kind of think he got caught up in the politics a little bit too much. So, and I think that's what ultimately led to, some of the firing that came. I mean, he was great for the university. I mean, he's one of the biggest names in Phoenix. But I just think sometimes you can get caught up in that culture or in the politics so much so that you forget about basketball, and then you forget about people too. And
agreed, man.
And that's what kind of happened. I mean, like I said, like you could touch on that yourself, because again, you play. Like, how was it? Like, because a lot of people won't ever meet an NBA player. You had a chance to play for an NBA player, and especially one who actually matched up with Mike in the NBA Finals. How was that? Did Marley ever speak on that a lot? Like, because I was talking to somebody before, and I said, well, Marley guarded Jordan in that finals. Like, that was his assignment. They were saying, no, Marley didn't guard Jordan. Like, tell me about, what did Marley tell you specifically about that particular matchup?
It's funny. He likes to, can you hear me? Can you hear my mic?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello? Yeah. Marley would often talk about that matchup in practice from time to time. Usually after we would lose a game, he would definitely bring up that Mike matchup. But just playing for a NBA player who actually guarded and played against the GOATs, it was at first I'm really here right now in the same vicinity as someone who played against arguably one of the greatest finals of all time in NBA history. And he mentioned several times about those finals, like it was hard-nosed, not pure 90s basketball. No calls, none of that foul shit. It was just like strictly mano y mano, my team versus your team. But one thing I started to notice is, it was tough. It was tough, being in some of those practices, especially being in the position that I was in. A lot of the politics, I personally think, came from Jerry Colangelo. For those who don't know, Jerry Colangelo was head of our basketball, I think, operations at one point in time, who was former owner of the Philadelphia 76ers and I think former owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks and current Team USA head of basketball ops, I believe. I could be wrong on that. So I think he was operating, with someone in his ear telling him, hey, maybe we should do this or maybe we should do that. And for a Walker like me, who was coming in every day giving 110%, understanding that I wasn't, gonna step onto the court, despite how many hashtags they made of me to play, despite how many times the crowd said, hey, put Cheick in the game, despite how many times even Brian Mueller, the president of the university, would say, hey, this kid can play. Why is he not playing? Like, I've got stopped several times on campus by the board of directors or whoever is in charge, by those guys saying, hey, like, we come to the games and look forward to seeing you play. Like, why aren't you suiting up? And that's a difficult question to answer when you're just like almost like a worker bee, like you're just going in and trying to do your job. And that was very difficult. But I sat down and had a meeting with Coach Marley towards the end of the season. And he admitted, to me, like, hey, like, I know that you're one of our better players, but, we're in a position where we got to play, the players that, we initially went with and almost live and die by the decisions that we made. So hearing that at a young age as a college student helped me realize, like, okay, basketball is great, being talented is amazing, but players, if you're out there, go where you will play. I don't care if it's Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. Go where you want, where you're wanted, and where you want to, where coaches will play you. Don't get gassed up by the hype of D1, D2. Don't get gassed up by it. Go where you can confidently say that I've given everything when I've stepped on that court. So, yeah, there's that. I know I just threw a lot at you, but there's that.
No, that's good. Hey, that's solid right there. And like I said, again, this is all information, man. This is all information that especially these younger guys need to know stepping into the college realms. And again, there's a lot of even older people, a lot of people will go to, they'll pull up your GCU stats and be like, oh, he only averaged this many points per game. And it doesn't really tell the true story. Like, you have to understand the politics. And, these politics delve into the NBA. It even delves into trying to go overseas to hoop. And again, you're a perfect example of that because, again, I know you. I know a lot of people who can vouch for you. There's been scouts and other people who can also vouch for you as well as being an elite talent in the GCU program. You just didn't get that particular opportunity because of the politics. But another thing that I want to touch on is this right here. And this was, very interesting to me because I had my own experiences. And this was one of the biggest things. So for all of the youngsters that when you actually make a D1 team, okay, you grind through high school, you're a freshman, you get on campus, and as a freshman, and I know I'm not going to say you came on as a junior to a D1 school, so you may have had a bit more experience with this. So you may have, you knew how to navigate this particular area a little bit better than some of the youngsters would. What advice, man? What advice can you give these young guys, man? Especially when going into the D1 schools. What advice can you give them with regards to dealing with the females that will constantly? Because I'm gonna tell you guys, I came to GCU as a coach, and I didn't even know Cheick. And the first whispers that I heard about him were from females about him, and multiple stories of, and what I'm saying is nothing negative, but what I'm saying is it's thrown at you, especially if you were talented, especially if you got personality to you, especially if you're personable. Right. It's gonna get thrown at you. What advice would you give these young guys? Like, how do you balance that? Because there's some players that fall into that world and they can't recover, and it starts to affect their game. And me and you both know players, even on the GCU roster, that allowed this type of stuff to mess up their entire career. Like we both know players like that. Like what advice would you give these young guys going in on how to deal with that?
That is, I would say, one of the best questions I've ever heard. I think that's where Mamba mentality comes into play. Rest in peace, Kobe. Imagine this: you're either a college freshman coming into a university or a walk-on, right? Unless you're like a top 5 blue chip 5-star recruit, maybe playing time may not be something that is guaranteed to you, right off the bat. So it's hard to, maintain that same enthusiasm. It's hard to maintain that same focus and discipline that you started out with in the beginning of the year. Because I already know every college freshman is like, yo, this is like my 2K story mode. Like this is it. This is how it's gonna happen. This is how it's gonna start. And unfortunately, more times than often, it doesn't usually go like that. So when things usually aren't going your way on the basketball court or whatever you're doing in life, the next alternative is, okay, well, how do I deal with this? Do I continue to work hard? Do I continue to stay in the gym? Do I continue to stay motivated and say my time is gonna come? Or do I fall into these pits of women, parties, drinking? And understand GCU and Ma, GCU is a really big, it's a party. I know it's a Christian university, but it's also a party school. So it's real easy to get caught up in that. And what they do is some of the GCU pages tend to blow up, some of the college basketball players that are coming in and say, hey, check out this new kid from here, et cetera, follow him on IG, et cetera, et cetera. So you're going to get tons of followers, tons of this, tons of all of the perks that you've ever wanted from all of these women. You're going to get attention from being on the court. You're going to get that off the court. And it's going to become difficult. You're going to say, hey, I have no problem being on the bench now because I'm getting attention from Phoenix Suns cheerleaders. I'm getting attention from some of the Phoenix Suns reporters. I'm getting attention from Diamondback cheerleaders. I'm getting attention from university students. You got to understand, GCU is big in Arizona as far as culture goes. So you're not going to get attention from GCU students. You're going to get attention from a lot of people in Arizona. So it becomes difficult to navigate. And I've seen it firsthand where when things aren't going a person's way, a man decides, okay, do I want to continue to go along this path, or am I just going to enjoy the sweet life of being in Arizona, enjoying the good weather, cold drinks, going out every night with tons of beautiful women, and et cetera, et cetera. That is a pit of despair that you will not come back from. And I'm telling you that right now. That is not an easy hole to climb out of. It is not. I'll say example A. I'm not going to say any names. Example A, talented player, but got caught up in some BS, off campus and in the classroom. And unfortunately, things didn't go this certain person's way. This isn't even a basketball player. And unfortunately, he was also a good looking dude, so he got a lot of attention from females. And he doesn't even want to play his sport anymore because he got caught up in the hype. Do not get caught up in the hype. That shit comes and goes, but your work ethic, your perseverance, the person that you are on the court, the reason that you got to that university in the first place is going to be the thing that saves you from the nightlife, the thing that saves you from the women, the thing that saves you from throwing out your basketball career in the first place. Do not throw away your basketball career for a moment. I'm going to repeat that again. Do not throw away your basketball career for a moment in time. It's real easy to get caught up in that and get gassed up by females saying this and that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That will always be there. I can promise you that. That will always be there. And this is not just for male basketball players. This is for female basketball players as well. that aspect of the game will always be there, and it has always been since the beginning of time. So my advice to you is to stay focused on that court, continue to grind, and continue to work your way up despite the politics, and continue to fall in love with the game of basketball. That's the reason why you got to that university in the first place.
That's 100%. Man, that's 100% facts. Like for me, I'm going to say like, and it's different ways for everybody to do what you said. Like for me, it was about keeping my mind occupied, staying busy, whether, and again, it's not hard to stay busy, especially when you're a D1 athlete.
Right.
And if you find yourself staying busy, staying around your teammates, staying in the gym, like the next thing you know, I guarantee it, with all the resources that most of these D1 universities have, you're going to find yourself on the court actually playing.
Correct.
But you got to stick with it. And it was unfortunate with you. I feel like if you would have came into GCU as a freshman, you would have eventually got that opportunity, because I know how talented you are. It's unfortunate that you just happened to come in as a junior. Yeah. And then you went through your senior season, and then you were gone, and it's just like, so especially if you're coming in as a freshman, what you want to do is you got to understand that it might not always go your way the first year or the second year, but you're gonna get an opportunity. You need to make yourself ready. But there are so many things off the court that can divert you from making your game better. I've seen so many players, and again, not just at GCU. I'm sure you've seen it in New York as well. Guys not getting better. Guys will be complacent. They'll get passed up by other guys. But so all you have to do is just continue to work, man. But I want to touch on the next thing I want to touch on with you is overseas, man. So we know that after GCU, I mean, obviously getting overseas nowadays is not as easy as it used to be, because from what I've been told, the market has just got flooded with people who take bad offers. Guys will take any contract, so now the money's messed up. It's hard to make really, really good money now as opposed to it was maybe like 10, 15 years ago. Like you were fortunate enough to find an avenue to get overseas. Tell us about your journey over in the UK. How did that go? And how did that go this year? How did this year go for you? And then what can we expect from you in going on forward in the future?
One thing's for sure, for people that are trying to, go overseas, understand that a lot of different places, basketball isn't their primary sport. So do not expect, unless you're like playing for Maccabi, Tel Aviv or one of the, majors we're all, working, to strive for. It could be underwhelming. The crowd attention could be underwhelming. It could be, some places could be underdeveloped depending on where you go and who you play with. So you're really kind of guided by your own hustle and your own hype to say, all right, I don't want to play in this situation anymore. I'm going to continue to grind and continue to do this until I get to that next level and say, I came from there, so now I'm here now. In the UK, the primary sport is usually football. We call it soccer. But it was an amazing experience, man. I ended up leading the UK in scoring. I averaged 40 points a game in one of the highest divisions in the United Kingdom, garnering a lot of attention, from, the BBL, from Spain, from Finland, a lot of countries that are trying to, continue and further my basketball career. Even the G League, which is, what I'm also excited about. So, I'm pretty much fueled by the fact that GCU didn't turn out the way I wanted it to turn out. So yeah, man, I'm happy with how this year ended up, and it feels good to know that I'm still that player that I always thought I was.
Yeah, I definitely, like I say, I always knew you had it from the minute I saw you play. And again, it's just, especially when you got to go overseas, it just becomes a mindset now. Now it's about your intestinal fortitude. You got to go into an understanding that some of your circumstances might not be the most ideal.
That's right.
If you can go in and tolerate it and just deal with it and grind. You got guys like Pat Beverly. We saw how they did it. It's a lot of those cases in the NBA now, but you got to stick with it. But if you haven't seen this man play, you can look up his highlights on YouTube. He's definitely a walking bucket. I've been the victim of a few of those buckets 1-on-1.
Mom been training me a few times, so I use a couple of his moves against him. To be fair,
it's that's what I'm saying, because it's not just your game. It's like also with that New York grit too. So it's a toughness to it as well. It's a finesse to it, and it's just like it makes it extremely hard to defend. Because the toughness comes going to the rim, being able to finish, the finesse being able to have that touch all around the court, mid-range, three-point line. And you can see that around even when how you play. So I definitely know that you'll find a home somewhere, semi-pro, professional. Hopefully you can get that G League opportunity. I mean, you get to the G League, you one step away.
God willing.
Once you get there, it's just all about, doing what you got to do to get to the next step. So, we'll definitely be there supporting you. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up now. Don't go nowhere, Cheick. But we appreciate him coming into the show today, giving us, a lot of them gems about college basketball, having to grind from the JUCO level to the D1 level. Now he's overseas on the professional level grinding. So, again, make sure y'all remember this name, because I guarantee that you're going to see this guy's name on an NBA roster over the next coming years, because again, he's definitely a workhorse. He's humble, and he's probably one of the most genuine dudes you can run across. So we definitely appreciate Cheick blessing us with his presence on the podcast. But make sure you guys, again, if you haven't done so already, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. We got more interviews coming with players, either professional or former college players. I want to give you guys an inside look of just what some of the struggles these players have to deal with grinding through college, going into the professional realms, whether they decide to play or whether they decide to go into coaching. So we got more of these interviews coming. You got to make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so that when we post these videos, you can get that notification. Don't forget, game 1 of the NBA Finals, 2 hours before the game, we're going to be going live. Make sure you join those live debates. You're going to want to join those live debates, man. If you can come with the best arguments, I mean, if you want to debunk me or ether me on any topic that you've seen on the show so far, if you come with the best arguments, we got cash prizes if you can step into there and step in on a live conversation and bring those really good debates. But again, we appreciate all support. We're grinding to 20K. The goal is 100K by December. With all this continued support, hopefully we can get there. But it's FYF Sports, man. Another great episode. And we out.